As the 41st millennium draws to a close, the galaxy is riven with war as never before. Madness and mayhem consumes whole star systems, affording the denizens of the Dark City ample chance to raid at will. Yet there are those who whisper that even Commodore is not proof against the horrors that draw near. Vekt's Declaration in 994 M41. Asdrubal Vekt looks upon the war-racked galaxy and declares this to be an age of plenty. The races of real space are beset by woes, their civilizations battling a never-ending tide of enemies, each more monstrous than the last. Vekt orders his lieutenants to take advantage of the galaxy's worsening plight, to strike wherever the lesser races are spread too thin and pillage unopposed. Slaves and riches flow into Commodore in a tide, and the Dark Eldar revel in their own unmatched might. However, all of this is but a distraction, albeit on an unimaginably vast and complex scale. While Vekt's subjects glut themselves upon the hapless peoples of the material dimension, their eyes are turned outward, away from the dark deeds of their ruler. An unexpected ally in 995 M41. The craft world of Yandon, struggling to survive after its horribly narrow victory over High Fleet Kraken, is forced to engage Wark Wreckfist in order to prevent Yandon being invaded again. Early engagements cause rippling damage on the Greenskin Empire, but the Orcs counterattack in force. Yandon is left with no choice but to disturb more and more of their revered ancestors from their deathly slumbers and place their spirit stones into mighty ghost warriors in order to contain the counter-invasion. Just as all seems lost, the Wraith-kind Cabal and the Cult of the Flayed Hand burst through the webway portal at the craft world's rear, fighting alongside Yandon's Aspect Warriors and their Ghost Warrior allies. The Dark Eldar drive off the Orcs. When asked by Yandon's Council of Seers as to why they intervened, the Dark Eldar reply that they find Yandon's angst-ridden forays into the world of necromancy extremely entertaining. Danger Unseen in 996 M41. In the Undercore, the phenomena that beset Cain's Gate became ever more pronounced. Many of the strange portal's guards have been driven mad by the whispering voices that now pervade the gate chamber. Those who have not hacked each other apart or taken their own lives have begun carving "Let us in" into the walls of the chamber, some scratching this unsettling mantra directly into their flesh. The air of the chamber shimmers with half-glimpsed shapes, while mandrakes and shade ravens gather in increasing numbers in the tunnels around and about. Overlord Vekt continues to suppress knowledge of these phenomena with cruel efficiency, while quietly relocating ever more of his own power base to hidden sub-realms behind multiple well-guarded portals. A number of Archons who had believed their cabals out of favor are delighted when Vekt presents them with reconciliatory gifts of prime territory, ceded from the ownership of the Cabal of the Black Heart and located directly above the Undercore. Rakav's Ladder in 998 M41. Urian Rakath recognizes similarities between his kin-frenzied reaving of real space and the blood-mad days that led up to the fall. Ancient beyond mortal comprehension, Rakath still dimly recalls that apocalyptic event. His memories are enough to prompt him to precautionary action. Though Rakath has no interest in the survival of either real space nor his own race without the living resources that both provide, his personal quest for depravity would come to a crashing end. Thus the homunculus begins stockpiling what he views as raw materials, leading raids to seize vast quantities of slaves and dragging them back to the oubliettes in chains. As the scale of his raiding operation increases, Rakath enlists the aid of several powerful covens, including the Black Descent, the Coven of 12, and the Prophets of Flesh. These monstrous cliques claim new subrealms within the webway, and begin to fill them with countless ranks of stasis pods that fade away for miles in the gloom. Each contains a living being, stolen from real space in order to stock the vile larders of the homunculi against hard times to come. The Warp Surge in 924-999 M41. A mighty storm front rolls through warp space, plucking at the edges of the labyrinthine dimension. Arterial passageways shudder uncontrollably, while smaller, more damaged offshoots tear or collapse altogether. Cain's Gate glows white hot for several moments, and one of the mighty chains that bind it snaps with a sound like a thunderclap. At the exact same moment, every single portal within the Dark City flickers out and then comes back to life, plunging hundreds of thousands into limbo or tearing them apart in transit. The Dark City is soon in uproar and demands that Overlord Vect take action to prevent a full-blown disjunction become ever louder. Vect suspects the hand of Lady Malice in this agitation, but his attempts to procure proof are foiled by troops of harlequins that appear from nowhere to slay Vect's agents or abduct his informants. Stealing the Void in 978-999 M41. The Cabal of the Black Heart and the Witch Cult of Strife lead a massive raid against the Imperial Navy moorings at Baka. The attack causes immense destruction and leaves a swath of the Imperium open to further raids, yet this is merely a byproduct of Vect's true purpose. While the bulk of the raiding forces are fully engaged with the Imperial Navy, a small, Dark Eldar force breaks away under the cover of advanced night shields. Led by Vect himself, with Lilith Hesperax at his side, this force assails the inquisitorial stronghold concealed behind Baka's third moon. In the ensuing battle, the Black Heart successfully kidnaps a handful of every special Imperial personnel. Aberrant anti-psychic mutants, the very presence of these so-called nulls deadens the tides of the warp and is anathema to the demons of chaos. The nulls are smuggled into the depths of the Dark City, destined for grotesque machines arranged around the undercore. Yet, though the luckless mutants are moved with the greatest care and secrecy, Vect's plan does not go entirely unnoticed, for the eyes of Lady Malice are everywhere. The Great Eye opens in 995-999 M41. The 13th Black Crusade surges from the Eye of Terror, Imperial and Allied armies flooding from across the Imperium to oppose it. Kabalite raids descend upon real space in their thousands to take advantage of the mayhem, yet now, battle is also joined in the Dark City. Through arcane channels, Lady Malice has learned of the developing situation around Kane's Gate. Fearing that Vect plans to intentionally trigger its opening and drown his rivals in demons, the Archon of the Poisoned Tongue activates assets all across the Dark City. Waves of empiric energy roll from the Eye of Terror to batter Komorah, collapsing sub-realms and breaching portals. Bands of Kabalites, witches and harlequins, loyal to Malice or Vect, engage in increasingly bitter skirmishes around the Undercore, oblivious to the irony that both factions are fighting to achieve the same end. Meanwhile, in a chamber filled with swirling madness, hairline cracks spread across Kane's Gate, and the caged gnolls begin to scream. The Drukhari Civil War, at an unknown date in M42. Though always beset by violence and strife, the Drukhari realm of Komorah has become particularly volatile since the Great Disjunction that arose following the formation of the Great Rift. Seeking to counter the Ynnari influence that had arisen in the Dark City, Supreme Overlord Asdrubal Vect has begun manipulating many assets within Komorah, seeking to eliminate Yvraine and her sect without being seen as openly murdering the prophets of Ynid. As such, Komorah has erupted into internecine violence as various cabals are attacking pro-Ynnari factions without even realizing Vect is behind their acts. One such example is the Cabal of the Lords of the Iron Thorn, eliminating the Cabal of Poisoned Hope. Vect also used third-party brokers to put bounties on Yvraine's and her followers' heads, creating expeditions of assassins and bounty hunters in Komorah, tasked with hunting down Ynnari in the Dark City and across the galaxy. In truth, Vect needed little to push the city towards constant strife, as the Drukhari rarely required much cause to murder one another. While Vect managed to destroy many of the pro-Ynnari factions within Komorah, entire sub-realms of the Dark City nonetheless fell under Ynnari control. These were soon fortified against attack and became separate enclaves of the Webway in their own right. Drazar strikes at Yvraine in M42, determined to eliminate the growing threat of the Ynnari to his own control of the Drukhari of Komorah through third-party brokers. Asdrubal Vect offered impossibly rich rewards for Yvraine's severed head, and so spurred dozens of hunting parties and feral Drukhari and other xenos mercenaries to take up the prophet of Ynid's trail. Perhaps the deadliest such hunting party was led by Drazar, Master of Blades. By following Yvraine to the sacred debating fires of Craftworld Saim Han and striking from a hidden webway portal, Drazar got his blade a hand's breadth from the High Priestess's neck. The kill strike was parried at the last moment by the Phoenix Lord Jane Zar herself. The running battle that followed saw Asuriani, Ynnari, and Drukhari clash in a series of engagements that took them to the ancient ruins of the Eldari Empire and beyond. Skilled as she was, Jane Zar could not overcome Drazar in combat, for where she was a leader as well as a warrior, Drazar was devoted to bladesmanship alone. But Jane had pledged her power to the Ynnari, and with Ynid's grace upon her, she fought with uncanny speed and skill to defend Yvraine. It appeared that even a mastermind such as Vect, allied with a near mythical warrior such as Drazar, could not engineer Yvrain's death. The Whispering God had use for his High Priestess still, and he would not be denied. And now we come to the last known event, the Godry falsehood in M42. There were other attempts by the Supreme Overlord of Commorragh to strike at Yvrain. Many of the homunculi that made their lair in the lower regions of Commorragh were old allies of Azadrubael Vect. They were so steeped in the history of the Dark City, so influential in their control of the Drukhari's sham immortality, that they sought to maintain the status quo from which they had profited for so many Tehran centuries. The Coven of the Prophets of Flesh, those who studied under the demented flesh sculptor Urian Rakath, had devised a new punishment: to take transgressors and reshape them, melding their mortal clay until they looked, walked, and even smelt like a human being. All Drukhari found this horrifying, for to them a human form was ungainly and ape-like, a cruel mockery of a biped in comparison to the lithe and alabaster-skinned Eldari anatomy. This was a horrific punishment for a people so vain and haughty as the Drukhari, and those subjected to the treatment cried out that they would do anything at all to have it reversed. In these false humans, Vect saw opportunity, one so twisted and sadistic that Urian Rakath agreed to orchestrate it on his behalf. On the Slab-Crete imperial planet of Godry Sekhmet, Yvrain preached the Inari Creed to a hidden gathering of Alaitok pathfinders high in the peaks. The Eldari did not expect any of the dull-witted humans who infested the rest of the planet to uncover the location of their eyrie, and Yvrain was speaking with such passion and fervor that all eyes were on her. Hence, when the Imperial military announced their presence with a well-organized Astra Militarum pincer assault, the Eldari found their line of retreat cut off by artillery fire. The Inari and the Alaitoki fell back to the webway portal upon which they had made planetfall, only to find a strike force of Drukhari mercenary elites bursting through. Caught between the hammer of the Drukhari assault and the anvil of the Astra Militarum, amongst whose ranks were Vect's false humans, had engineered the attack, the Inari were decimated. Only the manifestation of the Incarn, summoned to battle by so much Eldari death in one place, allowed Yvrain and the rest of the command structure of the Inari to break through and make their escape into the webway.